Hello and welcome to The Exchange, where we invite leaders in their field to join us to discuss topics of interest to all of us in our everyday lives. I'm Rob Buckingham and my co-host on The Exchange is my wife, Christie.
Great to be here. I'm looking forward to what we're going to be talking about today. Interesting topic.
Sure is. On today's show, we're going to be discussing the definition of marriage in the 21st century. How has marriage changed over the generations? And is it now more about me than we? To discuss this topic, we're thrilled to be joined by Sabina Read, who's a psychologist and social commentator. Welcome, Sabina.
Thanks, Rob. Good to be here. Thanks, Christie.
Great. We're also delighted to be joined by Sabina's mum, Alix Bradfield. Alix was a marriage counsellor for 12 years with Relationships Australia. She's been married for 45 years and has learned much from her parents, who are now 97 and 104 years old.
Amazing.
Welcome, Alix. Great
Delighted
to have you with
to
us.
be here, Christie.
Before we start our discussion, let's watch this clip.
We're gathered here today to witness this man and this woman enter into holy matrimony. They are both here today because they love one another. They will accept one another, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health. Or until they change their mind. They will work together and compromise for the good of their relationship in all circumstances. Or whenever it suits them individually. And they will always feel loving feelings towards one another. And if the butterflies ever fade, so will their marriage. If you agree to these terms, please say, I do.
I do.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. I just love that, don't you? And I wonder if that's not how some people, maybe not on their wedding day.
Hopefully not on the day itself, one would hope.
But do we all go into a marriage with realistic expectations? What do you think, Alix?
Realistic expectations, Rob. Well, I think it's a very romantic time in anyone's life. There are butterflies at that time, particularly on the wedding day. People love a wedding, and I hope that they think about it quite seriously beforehand.
Yep.
But do you think it's realistic? Do you think they actually know what the consequences of marriage is, Sabina?
I think, Christie, it's really hard to know on a wedding day when, as mums are saying, everyone's focused on how the napkins are folded and how divine the bridesmaids look.
Absolutely.
It's hard to really grasp what 20 years later that's going to look like.
And I remember saying to Rob, I didn't want to focus on the wedding. I wanted to think about the marriage.
Yes.
Because I saw so many people around me focusing on the napkin folds and the colour of the dresses.
Because the wedding's a day and a marriage is a life, isn't it? So
Absolutely.
We're coming up for 20 years, by the way. Which,
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, I was wondering if there's a medal that goes with it.
You definitely need a watch or something when you're like long-term in an employment situation.
But you're 45 years married.
45 years,
And
yes.
your parents are 70.
70 years married. Yes.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes.
More than most people's lifetime.
I know, it's incredible. What's the purpose of marriage, would you say, Sabina?
I think the purpose of marriage, Rob, has changed. It used to be really around handing down property. That's why we got married, so that we could say, we'll hand that down to our son and daughter-in-law because now they're in the clan, they're in the tribe. And boy, have we changed from there. Property is not being handed down in the same way anymore. It's taken on a whole new meaning. And yet we haven't necessarily caught up with those changes. So we have this idea, I guess through history things have changed. There was the hand down of property and ownership.
And the family name, the family line would be important as well.
Also, child rearing is a very main part of marriage.
Yep.
There's a lot of reasons behind marriage, but they've changed through the timeline.
Well, they've changed between
From
the
you
time
and
that
even
when
from
we
your
were
mum and
married
dad?
and when Sabina was married,
Let's explore that, yeah.
Well, I was married in the 60s, and it was on the cusp of major change at the time we were married. But we'd grown up in a time where the man was the breadwinner.
Yes.
The woman was the homemaker. We grew up in a time where sex before marriage was not condoned, nor was living together. But all of that was just about to change with women's liberation, with the advent of the pill. So I was in
limbo.
two worlds a little bit.
And how would you say that what would you observe from your parents before that? What were the major differences?
Well, I think I was very much from their day.
Right.
So I'm not sure there were a lot of differences between
How
their
they thought.
and the way I grew up. But it was as we got married that society began to change.
And then was there a jump for you, Sabina?
I think women, one of the big changes is women have had so many more opportunities. Education's been more of a focus for a lot of women, and so when they get married, they're now not just thinking about the important role of homemaking and parenting children. They're also thinking about other employment options and earning money. Further education. So that's changed the focus in the family unit and in the relationship.
Yeah. Do you think we've lost something though? Because Alex, you're talking about, I mean, your mum and dad, 70 years married, your mum's 104 and your dad is 97. I think that's just absolutely amazing.
And we think, Rob, that maybe a younger man is the secret.
Is that what it is?
Long-term marriage.
He's 7 years younger, I believe. And they look phenomenal.
They
just
do.
Well, yes, they do.
Incredible. But I mean, being together for 70 years, you and your husband for 45 years, and so you come out of a time where things were certainly looked at differently. So with the change and obviously higher divorce rates as a result, do you think we've lost something?
I think it's a lot more difficult because two people who are in a dual career couple, which is most often the way it is, they both have their own work stresses as well as the family stress.
Yes.
So I think, there was a couple I met some years ago, both who had very, very responsible, busy jobs. And I said, how do you balance everything? And they said, well, we're okay, but we need a wife.
Oh,
Wow.
We need a wife.
yeah, that is
Someone
interesting.
who's sort of stable at home.
Yep.
I'm not sure I was always stable, but anyway, I was at home a lot of the time before I started to work. There's this maybe dream of what a wife used to represent in a family.
I do think that raises an interesting point that emotion is contagious in a family unit. And so if you've got two people flapping around and with the stresses of work and the demands of earning, then the family unit feels that stress. And so not necessarily that a woman or a wife has to be the anchor, but there has to be some stability in the team to level and diffuse some
So
of
that
what we're all dealing with.
Might need to be then, because both are working, then both agree that at one point, one of them is not going to be flapping around.
And it might not be not working or not flapping full stop, but how can we break down the day? How can we break down the week so that when you're on this busy treadmill, I'm going to pull back. You're on flap duty. Only one person on flap duty at a time. That's what the sign should say in every living room.
And one of my observations about your generation is that everything is speeded up. The pace of life is so fast now.
Even for our children.
And everything's 24/7. So we used to have television. That was the intrusion in family life. Now it's Facebook and it's emails and it's texts, and work is 24/7. So I think, and there's a lack of sleep. There's sleep deprivation. Now, if you're sleep deprived, you're going to be less likely to tolerate whatever goes on naturally in a family.
None of us are at our best, are we?
No,
when we're
not when we're sleep deprived.
Talking of Facebook, we've actually
we've got a
Facebook
question here from our Facebook friend saying, is marriage these days about we or me? Is it focused on an individual or focused on the unit of marriage?
Well, now you're married these days. Am I married these days?
Yes,
I
you're
guess
still
I'm
married.
still
I hope so.
You had to check.
You are still married these days. Well, I think it's difficult to answer that across the board because that depends very much on the team you're looking at, on the partnership you're looking at. I think some couples are focused on the we and others are very focused on the me. And I think the long-term ramifications of too much me is the we falls apart.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I spoke to a gentleman the other day who is an ER doctor, and whilst he wants a wife who has the intellectual ability to keep him interested, he also wants a wife. I think what he needs to do is hire a house executive or something.
Who will bring his slippers to him.
Yeah.
Hearing you say that, Christie, though, I think marriage, often we look for all of these roles in one partner. We want this person to be good on the dance floor, good in bed, good in the kitchen, good with our friends, good with our children, dress well, look good, speak well, be entertaining, and then we're disappointed when they let us down.
All that wrapped up in one person.
How much can you actually outsource of those things is what a way I look at it.
You can, because, maybe for that, some of the friendship, you talk to girlfriends. I mean, research shows very clearly that women talk in different ways than men. if you're not finding that in your relationship as much as you want, there's other people you can talk to. There's other people you can dance with. There's other people you can eat with. I'm not suggesting outsourcing all of those roles.
I'm so glad to hear that.
You've got nothing then, but not to put all that expectation into one person.
Yeah,
Yes. I think that's very wise. Alix, you mentioned before that when you first got married, people were getting married rather than living together, and that has obviously changed. Do you think that's because some people just view marriage as being old-fashioned today? Is that one of the things that people have in their mind?
Well, I imagine that is true for some, but others still want to get married. There's something, as I say, there's something about the romance of marriage and declaring publicly and formally that you want to be together and that you're committing. I think that still exists, despite the funny part of the video. I think there's still a desire for that.
Well, the video almost looked at marriage as a lease. Do you think people, I mean, we're seeing people get, 10 years.
10-year lease with an option to extend.
Yes.
But it did tap into some truths, didn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
And so do we take marriage seriously? Do you think people still do?
On the wedding day or 10
Yes,
years later?
and the wedding vows, I would
The
say,
wedding
particularly.
vows, yes. It's a good question. I think probably everybody goes into it. I can't imagine that people actually make those vows thinking,
I didn't mean
no,
that.
I didn't mean that. I think they mean it on the day, but they probably don't anticipate how difficult a relationship is, a long-term relationship can be.
Okay, excellent. Loving the conversation. We'll continue it in just a moment. Stay right where you are. You're on The Exchange. Welcome back to The Exchange. We're having a lively discussion with Sabina Read and Alix Bradfield about the definition of marriage in the 21st century. And Alix, just before we went to the break, you were talking about how difficult marriage can be.
I don't want to put people off, Rob, Christie,
No, that's good.
but it is a challenging thing to be with someone for any length, a long-term marriage, because there are going to be conflicts. You're two very separate people. You have different ideas about things, and over the long term, you change a lot.
And do you think because people are getting married older that they're actually more different people than
They could be
set in their ways?
more set in their ways,
Yeah.
yes, and their careers are set. Yes, I think that could be more challenging. I've told you about the dream I had when I was a marriage counsellor. This dream had a car that was set up with one person driving, one person with the wheel, and the other person with the brakes and the accelerator. And I woke up and thought, well, that is brilliant. That is about sharing your life.
That's brilliant.
And actually, when you are together with someone, you're not a single individual. You constantly need to adapt and fit in with the other person, and they with you,
Otherwise
and
you're heading
accommodate.
for a car crash, aren't you?
Yeah, you are.
It actually sounds very familiar.
And accommodate each other.
Yeah, no, we say there's a brake and an accelerator in every family, but the steering wheel also helps.
It's such an amazing feeling to think you can steer, but someone else is going to determine whether you stop. Or it was a brilliant dream, I thought.
Yes.
I love it. And I really do. What are the benefits of marriage, Sabina?
Oh, I think what we all really want in life is to feel we matter to someone, to feel like we belong, to feel like we're connected. And marriage, when it goes well, creates a lot of those feelings.
Yeah.
We feel, when we know that someone else on this planet gets us, sees who we are. And they've seen us at our worst, they've seen us with our stretch marks, they've seen us with our hangovers, they've seen us...
It almost should be a prerequisite that they see some of the things. In fact, we were talking in hair and makeup this morning, people need to see this look before they marry you.
Absolutely,
I mean the pre-look.
Yeah, the pre-look. Yeah.
And it's not just the aesthetic though, is it? It's when you're angry, when you're sad. We have trouble sitting with a lot of these sort of uncomfortable, more negative emotions.
That's true. We'll leave it right there. We're going to go and see what the people on the street have to say.
Marriage is a major milestone, but why do people do it? Is it for love? Is it for security? Or is it pressure from the family or the partner? Has the concept of marriage changed? Are you married?
Yes.
And have you been married for a while?
Yes. A long time.
Commitment and compromise.
I think the main thing is that it's a mixture of good luck, good decision making, and a lot of hard work.
I like that.
Personally, coming from a religious background, I don't hold the religious values that it held. I think now for me it's about committing to a person and a life together.
It's a piece of paper, really.
Not a great deal. It means a lot more to my girlfriend.
And why does it mean more to your girlfriend than to you?
because she's a girl. She wants a perfect wedding.
The beginning of your life after you've finished, studying and doing things like that and starting a family.
I think before you get married, you have these sort of maybe unrealistic expectations, and real life is not exactly like that.
Possibly, apart from having a child, the biggest commitment I could make.
And do you think you could make that commitment?
Yeah, sure.
Fantastic. And
Someone trying to propose?
no, not that I think so. Anyone?
Marriage means to me, it's family.
Well, it's the commitment for my partner and I to get through whatever life throws at us together.
That's fantastic. And have you always held that belief?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wouldn't need to get married in front of God, so to speak. I think that to make that level of commitment, to stand up and do it, would be commitment in itself.
Do you think it's changed over time, the concept of it?
Yeah, I do. I think now a lot of people just assume that divorce is going to be in it.
I think if more people held the values that my husband and I had, we'd probably have a much better society. I think people give up too easily.
I think it's more socially acceptable to divorce as it wasn't previously.
I take it because you have 2 children that you are committed to some relationship?
Well, 1 child is mine, and I am committed to a relationship, but not with my child's father.
And does it look like there's a possibility of maybe getting married?
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Yep. Is that something you desire?
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, we hope it happens.
Hope you're not watching.
Some really good opinions there. We now welcome our Street Talk reporter, Sandra Cavallo.
Yeah, great to have you, Sandra. How was that woman who, when she was asked if she was married, she went, yes?
Yeah,
like, are you married, yes or no?
And I was like, that's just really confusing me.
Yeah.
She took ages to respond.
I was wondering if she was thinking with somebody listening, like...
Yeah, well, like the other one who thought that someone was going to come out and propose to her while we're on Street Talk. That threw me.
That would have been great, though.
It would have.
Would have loved
But
that.
I think she was a little bit disappointed that it didn't actually happen.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting, the opinions that I got on the street. And one of them particularly, even with a girl with the 2 children, she wanted to be married, but she didn't almost want to admit that she wanted to be married. Same with the other girl that wants to be married, but the guy doesn't. I don't know if that's just a female thing, that girls are the ones that really want to be married, and therefore
Well, you said his girlfriend just wanted a nice wedding.
Yes.
And we were talking about that before. It's like
Yes.
it's not just about a nice wedding, but a solid marriage the rest of your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's almost like you can't be proud of actually desiring marriage, and that's what I sort of picked up. Like, you can't actually say, oh yeah, I really want to be married. It's kind of, you don't want to show that you want to be that committed. That's what I picked up on the streets, and I don't know if that's something that's that's a change in our culture.
Alex, maybe you can address
Sandra,
it.
I think one of the interesting things about the great variety in the way people think about marriage and commitment.
Yes.
And that may be a part of what our life is today, that there are so many different versions of what people aspire to and what they think it involves. And now you 2 have been together and you look sort of chilled. And what is your secret?
Well, we have 2 key secrets.
Yes, we do.
You want to share one of them and I'll share one of them?
All right. We have 4 little lines we use, and it started off out of seriousness because I was a little older, because I am older than Christie, okay?
Yes.
So I was, I guess,
He's
more...
a boomer, I'm an Xer.
I was very stuck in my ways, put it that way, and so I had to get unstuck for the first few years of marriage. And so we had a quite volatile beginning to our married life, and so we developed this little 4-line statement when one of us was wrong. It's I am sorry, I am wrong, I made a mistake, please forgive me. And as soon as we recognise that, either Christie recognises that she's wrong or I'm wrong, we will say those lines, and it actually diffuses.
He's not the mistake. The thing he did is the mistake.
Yeah.
And
Very
also
powerful words, though.
I think
They are
so,
powerful words.
because I think just we have the 5 love languages. We also have the 5 languages of apology, because everybody hears apology in a different way. So that's the one thing we did. And the other thing we do is, people use this line, "I'm doing my best." Well,
which can be a cop-out.
And also we're not maybe asking to do something more, we're asking you to do something different. So what can I do for you right now that would help in this situation?
Yeah.
Those are the 2 things that we've decided to take into our marriage and
Okay.
kept in there.
One quick thought before we take a
Yeah, I
break.
like that.
Sabina?
Because something I often say to couples that I see is when they're criticising each other or when they're angry with each other, behind every angry statement, behind every criticism is usually an unmet need. And if we can find a way to share that criticism or that anger
That's good.
with,
That's really good.
what is it that I need?
Yes.
That's really what we're
and
asking.
sometimes it's opposite to what the spouse thinks.
Absolutely.
Excellent advice. Sandra, thanks so much for coming in.
Great to be
Great
here.
talk.
Have
We'll see you
you.
again
Very
soon.
interesting.
Back with more on The Exchange in just a moment. Welcome back to The Exchange with psychologist Sabina Read and her mother Alix Bradfield, a former marriage counsellor. We're discussing what marriage looks like in the 21st century, and we want to just kind of wrap this all up right now. Many people still tie the knot. How do we keep the knot tied? Sabina, what would you say first of all?
I think to keep the knot tied, we need to be clear about what the goal of the exercise is. And the goal, I think, of marriage is to find understanding in each other. And that doesn't mean agreeing. In fact, some research suggests that 69% of issues that couples have are perpetually gridlocked, will never find agreement on. And
yes, and Rob and I would agree to that.
And I wonder if Rob would agree with you.
I think she's wrong, but anyway.
But we have decided that we will accept each other's opinions on those things.
Totally.
So if we go into it knowing that almost 70% of the time we're not going to agree, we're never going to agree, then how do we find understanding for each other's perspectives?
Yeah.
That's what's going to keep the knot tied.
And so our goal then is not to get the other person to agree with us, it's to allow the other person the freedom to think differently.
You need to write that down.
Yeah, I will. Until Christie finally realises I'm right.
I'm
Okay.
right, yeah.
What about you, Alix?
Okay, I really think time is very important, and we have so many stretching demands that pull us in all directions. And if there's no fun time, no relaxed time for a couple or a family, it's going to be perpetually difficult, isn't it?
And you're a change agent as well. You understand change. I mean, people have to accept that marriage is going to bring a change.
Christy, it's not only marriage brings a change, but each year as
Right.
you both develop
That's true.
in different ways, you're not married to the same person. I've been married for 45 years, but we're not married to the same person. We're constantly changing and evolving, and thank goodness
Yes.
for that.
Well, that's what I say to
That
Rob.
creates an interest in the other person.
Absolutely. I say I love him more now than I did when I married him.
Yes, well, he would like to hear that.
Well, actually,
Tell me again.
I love you more now than I did when I married
Oh,
him.
I love it.
Babe.
I love it. But we don't want to take our mates for granted either. We were talking about that the other day. You can make up your
Yes.
mind, he's this way or she's that way.
That's so true.
We're constantly evolving. We're changing.
It's important
we're
to
learning.
stay curious, isn't it?
Yes,
To stay curious about each other.
Yes,
Definitely.
I often stay curious. What was he thinking? What was he thinking?
Yes.
Very curious.
And you don't come up with an answer.
Not often.
No. But that's what makes life interesting, isn't it? And I think, what you've just shared, those two things are just so freeing as well. We don't have to agree.
No.
We can accept our differences and we're changing and evolving, and that just does keep life interesting.
Yes,
And
definitely.
the timing of resolving differences is good too. If you're really, really tired at the end of the night, it's not the time to get into a free-for-all, is it?
No.
You can leave it to a time when you're a little bit more
When it's
relaxed.
Yeah. Go to sleep.
Don't forget it, because
Yeah.
you
It
want
does
if
need
you
to be dealt
it
with.
does need to be
Yeah.
dealt with, but not when you're tired.
Alix and Sabina, thank you so much
Been
for your
lovely
time.
Thanks for
Having you
having
guys.
us.
It's
It's
fantastic.
been fun.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you. Aw.
Please go to our website for a fact sheet on today's episode and for more information about this show, The Exchange. We look forward to seeing you next time.